Hey there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brittney Bundles, and today's video is going to be a Q&A all about selling my first home. Now, the questions that I pulled were from emails that I got a while back when I was keeping you all updated on my move from Michigan to down south. And I was explaining to you all how I was in the process of selling my home and keeping you all updated as I went along. And I got questions in regards to selling my home, but I never really sat down to do like a full Q&A. I answered some questions in some other Q&A videos, but I never really dedicated a whole video to answering questions specifically for or in regards to selling my home. So I chose about 5 questions. I do have more questions than that. So if you are watching and you don't hear your question read, be sure to comment, ask your question down below or send me an email to btalks@yahoo.com. And if I get enough questions, I'll probably do a part 2, but I don't like the videos to be too long. That's why I don't, I guess long is discretionary, right? But I feel most comfortable doing about 5 questions at the most for a video. So if you are interested in this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Please make sure that you are subscribed. As a disclosure, I am visiting with family, so I'm not at home. The background looks different because I'm recording in my family's office. So I just wanted to put that out there in case you all were wondering. So if you are interested, again, give the video a big thumbs up and let's get right into the video. So the first question that I got is, were you able to close on your home virtually? No. So I was thinking with all the technology that I would be able to close, like, I guess electronically, completely. I'm sure there may be different processes where you can, but I started the process electronically where I signed a few documents over, through my phone. I pulled up the email, signed a few DocuSigns, and then the final closing, I actually had to meet up with a notary that came to my home to my new apartment to close on the home that I sold in Michigan. I thought this was really interesting too, worth mentioning. I purchased the home before I got married, if you all know, or if you have been watching me long enough. And I couldn't sign with the notary to sell my home to the buyers in Michigan until my husband was home. And I was thinking that it was strange that he had to be there, but he actually had to sign documents as well because we were married, even though he was not on my home in Michigan. He didn't purchase my home or anything like that, but because we were married, he still had to sign on documents. So when I went to the mortgage class that I went to, they were going over different information like that, because when you do get married, there's a lot of information, and I'll do another video on this if you are interested, probably on my Patreon, like a girl talk video. But there's a lot of information that I just didn't know, that I think a lot of people don't know. Laws are different from state to state. Property, marital property is different. I went into marriage thinking that whatever you had before the marriage is pretty much just yours alone, but that's not necessarily true in all cases, either or in all states. So if you are planning on selling a home and you are considering getting married, or you're recently married, then you want to look into like everything that goes into selling that. What is considered your property, what is now joint marital property, what is just your spouse's property, and things like that. Because I was really shocked. Not that it really mattered that he signed on the home or not. I didn't have an issue with it, but I was just shocked because I'm thinking that if I purchase the home by myself, I'm gonna sell the home by myself. I will be the only one on the documents. That's what I was under the assumption thinking. Now, again, it didn't hurt anything, or it wasn't like the end of the world, but I was really taken back because I had to keep rescheduling with the closer because I had to find a time where he was actually home and she was available. Because I was thinking, again, that I could just be there, sign off on the documents, but no, he actually had documents to sign as well. So to answer the first question, I know I kind of went off on a tangent, but I just wanted to throw that out there. I thought that was really interesting. Were you able to close on your home virtually? Again, I was able to start some of the closing, start a portion of the closing process electronically. But I actually did have to meet with like a closer, and I thought it was pretty cool that she was able to come to my apartment and, have all the documents signed right then and there. And pretty much it was done. The second question is, did you hire a realtor? And the answer to that is no, I did not. When I was planning, I've been considering selling my home for years prior to me actually selling it. Not that anything was wrong with my house, but it was just a starter home. Like when I moved into my home, my kids were a lot smaller. So it was a lot more roomier. I didn't really have as much going on with my business as I do right now. So it worked for what I was looking to do at that particular point. Also, renovations. When I went into purchasing my first home, I really didn't do a lot of research about buying my first home, to be honest. I knew what it took to get qualified for a house. I knew what kind of house I was looking for, how many bedrooms and things like that. But as far as looking at different structures of a home, as far as looking at certain structural things, I'm just going to say things. I know it kind of doesn't sound right, but just looking at different structural things in my home, I really did not dive into it like that. I had plans on doing renovations, but when you get started with renovations and it's an older home, a lot of times there's more that you have to pay than just like the renovations. You get into more, like you open a can of worms, so to speak. You may go in wanting to fix your ceiling and realizing that you don't just need new tile for the ceiling, but you actually need new beams, and you actually need new this and new that. I don't know all the terminology, but when I got into the time where I was ready to renovate the home, after some years of living there, everything that I wanted to do, it was just a lot more expensive. And I added everything up, and I'm like, by the time I put all this in this house, it doesn't even make sense to stay here. This is not a home that I'm planning on staying in for, 20, 30 years. This is not, a home that I'm just so in love with that I just can't leave. It's just, I just wanted it to be updated and renovated while I stayed in it for the next maybe 5 years. But based on the pricing and the quotes that I got, I was like, it doesn't make sense. So when I did hire a realtor initially, they were going through, and I say all that to say pretty much, when I did hire a realtor initially, they were telling me all of the updates and renovations that they suggested I get before I put my home on the market. And it was just a lot. And I'm like, I really don't want to put that much into this house. It's kind of like a car. Like if you have a car that you're driving and you get it, and then you're like, okay, I'm getting it with the intention that in a few years I'm going to do this to it, this to it, this to it. And then when it comes time to do this and this and that to it, you get the quotes and you're like, well, this is pretty much like, it doesn't make sense to put all this money into the car when I'm not going to keep it. I like the car, but it's not a car that I'm going to keep for that long. So, you kind of have to weigh your options. So I got the opinion from the realtor. I checked with I checked with some other realtors, and they gave me really good information. Like I was able to learn how to look at the comps in different in my area. And it really helped me deciding what I wanted to list my home for. But as far as like the renovations, I didn't want to do it. So I decided not to go with the realtor. I decided to sell the home on my own. There are some ups with that and also some downs. I didn't have to split my profit with the realtor. I guess that was one of the ups, but also one of the downs is I could have gotten more money from the sale of my home if I would have done the renovations, but also I would have put more money in. So I kind of had to figure out what was going to be the most profitable and what was going to make the most sense and save me the most money at the same time. It did take, I feel like it would have taken, it didn't take too long, but I feel like with the realtor, it definitely would have been a more seamless process instead of me having to communicate with people that were interested in buying the house directly, because it can get overwhelming, especially when you have children, you have your life, you have your business or your job, and then you're constantly trying to make sure that you don't miss any messages from interested buyers because you want to sell your home as soon as possible. And at that time, I had a mortgage in Michigan, still had rent down south. So it was very, very expensive. It was an expensive point in my life. But to answer that question, no, I did not hire a realtor. The third question is, what renovations did you have done? I kind of just answered that in the last question. I didn't have any renovations done, just to kind of lay that out. I was considering, I did do a little bit of painting. So my mom, she helped me paint the back door. But other than that, I really didn't do any renovations, to be honest, none. I tried to clean up the house and stage it really nicely. so that it looks nice, you know, when people come in, obviously, for viewings and showings and things like that. For the showings and viewings, that was also something that was a little complicated. I would have to schedule it to work so that I could go from down south back up north to be there. And it just began because I remember, if you've been following my channel, I was doing a lot of vlogs where I was going back and forth so often. And part of the reason I was doing that is because I needed to sell my home, and I had different people that were interested in buying the home that wanted to actually do like walkthroughs, and I would explain to them, you know, different, or answer different questions that they had in regards to the property and things like that. And then my mom was also a huge help. She would go over there in between like her lunch breaks and after she got off of work during the times that I couldn't travel from down south back up north to meet the potential buyer. So it was definitely a lot. I was just hoping that it sold as soon as possible. It actually didn't stay on the market too long. I sold it within a few months of me listing it, so that was a blessing. But it was a lot. But just to answer that question, I didn't really do any renovations besides painting. The fourth question is, was it hard to sell? I guess hard is discretionary. I can say that it was a tedious process. I wouldn't say that it was necessarily hard to sell, especially during the time that I sold it. Like, I sold my home in a time where it was like a seller's market, I guess you could say. Like, everyone was looking to purchase a home. Businesses were looking to buy houses. People were looking to buy houses. It was just easier at that time to sell my home. You know, sometimes the timing is all that matters, you know. And I would say that I put my home for sale in perfect timing, because I haven't calculated exactly how long it took me to sell it, but I wasn't going back and forth. I wasn't paying like mortgage and rent for too long. I would say it was probably like 5 months or less. I want to say it was around 4 months that it took for my home to completely sell, which is pretty fast in my opinion. It seemed like a long time when I was going through the process, but it really wasn't in reality. The last question that I'm going to go over in this video is, did you ever feel like it wasn't going to sell? And my answer to that is yes. For me, I think, I'm a thinker. So I always think about like, what if this doesn't happen? What if this does happen? What are my goals? What are my plans? And that's why on my YouTube channel, when I'm doing different like business videos, giving you advice and tips, as well as when I'm on my Patreon, giving you different advice and tips, and even on my podcast, I always stress the importance of having a backup plan, because it's so important. That's just how my mind works. I moved down south with the expectation that, okay, hey, if my house doesn't sell, what am I gonna do? And so my backup plan was, if it doesn't sell in like I think I initially had a goal of, if it didn't sell in like 5 or 6 months, I was going to rent it out. Like, either way, I wasn't going to keep paying mortgage and rent. That's just really, really expensive. So I set aside that time, and you know, that was my like calming point to ease my mind on the question of, what if it doesn't sell, Brittney? Like, what if you move down here, you get this apartment and it doesn't sell, and you're still responsible for both? What are you going to do? Foreclosure wasn't an option for me. Not saying, you know, sometimes you have to do what you have to do. I'm not looking down or judging anyone that decides to do that, but I'm just saying, for me, it just wasn't an option. I did not want to foreclose. I still wanted to either pay off my home or rent it out, and I still wanted to move down south. I didn't want to be tied to Michigan because of this house. So having that backup plan really helped. And then also staying really consistent. When I mean consistent, I mean, I'm not only am I waiting for people to contact me in regards to the house, I'm looking for different websites that I can post my house on. I'm looking for different businesses, people, you know, I'm contacting friends and family members, asking them, do they know anyone that's interested in buying a home? You know, I was really adamant on getting that sold, and I was able to do so. So to answer that question, yes, I did feel like at times that my house was not going to sell, but I was comforted because I had a backup plan if it didn't. So those are the answers to those questions. I really enjoyed talking about the home buying process and the home selling process. I love the process. I think it's really intriguing, and it's also a real fun process to get in on. I do plan on purchasing another home. If it's not next year, it'll be the year after, just to you know, like, I don't even know if the home that I purchase next will be like the home that I stay in, you know, for 20 plus years. I can't say that, but just knowing a little bit more about the process since I've actually gone through it, I'm not nervous about, I don't want to say I'm not nervous, but I'm not as nervous as I was initially about purchasing a home. You know, I do, like, again, think it's really interesting, the whole process, the different types of mortgages you can get, the qualifications based on the type of mortgage that you decide to get and things like that. So if you are someone that is interested in learning more about the home buying or home selling process, I'm happy to share the knowledge that I've acquired, that I've learned working in the loan industry for over 3 years, and also the information that I acquired going through the process personally. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below or send me an email. I do want to thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.